Hello everyone! In this week's video, I'm going to be redrawing scenes from two of my favorite animes. The first scene I'm going to be redrawing is of Shirayuki from Snow White with the red hair. So let's get started. So at first I wasn't sure if I wanted to draw Prince Zen or Shirayuki. I love both characters a lot and I really like Prince Zen and I really liked the screenshot of him. So I decided to do a rough sketch of Zen and a rough sketch of Shirayuki. I kind of liked my rough sketch for Shirayuki a bit more. Something about Zen's pose with his head and his neck and his shoulders was a little bit awkward. And I also thought the lighting situation looked really fun in Shirayuki's screenshot, so I decided to go with her screenshot instead of Zen, even though I do really like Zen. So after doing my super rough sketch, I start doing more of my cleanup sketch. My rough sketch, her face looks kind of derpy. So I was trying my best to make her face look a little bit better and not so weird. So if you've never seen Snow White with the red hair, it's basically about Shirayuki, and she has red hair, which I guess in that universe is considered kind of rare, and people kind of go after Shirayuki because of her rare hair color, which is why there's a knife pointing at her. That's more to do with like Prince Zen and stuff. This is from episode 3, I believe. I usually like to take screenshots from like the first episode, so there's no spoilers or anything, but I couldn't really find any that I really liked in those first episodes, but episode 3 had some really good options. So after doing my cleanup sketch, I started sketching out the background. I was trying to mimic the angles of the building the best I could and try to get the kind of rough details into place. But yeah, basically Shirayuki has to run away from home because the prince of her kingdom is like trying to take her for himself, and so she runs away from home and ends up meeting Prince Zen, and they kind of become friends, and there's all this adventures and stuff like that. It's a really cute shoujo fantasy manga slash anime. I'm currently reading the manga and it's really good. It's one of my favorites. So yeah, I had a lot of fun drawing Shirayuki. Next I am moving on to doing the line art. The line art was good. I never really know what to say about the line art because the line art is just me going over my cleanup sketch. One thing I do want to say though is that if you have a hard time with your line art being clean, I do recommend trying to make your sketch super clean, because sometimes I'll try to save time by doing a rough sketch and then not cleaning it up very much. I'll be like, oh, I'll just go over the rough sketch with my line art right now and I won't do a cleanup sketch. But then a lot of times my line art ends up taking longer because I have to keep redrawing things to make things how I like it. And I find that if I just do a more cleanup sketch of my rough sketch, it makes the line art process go a lot more smoothly. So if you find you have a hard time with your line art process, it might help to do another cleanup sketch. After finishing the line art, I start blocking in the colors for the background. So for the archways, I made my main archway and then I kind of copy and pasted it over and over and over again. And then I cut off the bottoms at sort of an angle. And then to make the archways kind of go in, I guess, so we can see the side of the pillar, I made a copy of the archways and then clipped them to my main archway layer and then moved them backwards. And then when I moved them backwards, it made it so we have the side of the archway, if that makes sense. It was a really easy way to make it look like it had dimension without having to draw all of the inside of the archways. I don't draw backgrounds very much, so my backgrounds don't match the anime backgrounds very well, especially for the second screenshot I'm going to be redrawing. I feel like the background in this one turned out pretty okay and fairly similar to the animes just because it wasn't like super duper complicated. It was just kind of that building structure and then the sky. So, but yeah. Anime background artists are amazing. Like sometimes the backgrounds are kind of something I don't really notice, but when you take the time to actually look at them, they're like so pretty a lot of times, and they're like amazing. And now I am starting to add more lighting to the background, so I'm trying to mimic the lighting of the screenshot the best I can. So I put a layer of pink and then I put a layer of yellow and set that to add glow. And I also add a little bit of shading to the building structure in the background. I also had some light rays. You can kind of slightly see them in the background, but I kind of made them a little bit more prominent because I thought it would look kind of cool. And now I'm outlining the sword. I kind of didn't get the shape of the sword quite right. It needs to be more pointy. I wish I would have made it more pointy, but it's fairly close. Next, I add the little bit of cloud details in the sky. That was a lot of fun because I was just putting splotches of color. So next, I'm moving on to coloring Shirayuki. For her shading, I put a whole bunch of shadow over her and set it to multiply. And then I erased it where I didn't want the shadow. For this screenshot, I kind of used a mixture of soft shading and cell shading because I still kind of wanted it to mimic the kind of cell shaded look of the screenshot, but I still wanted to have some softer shading as well. So like for her face, I used a lot of the softer shading because your face is often kind of softer and has more roundness to it, especially for anime characters. So I wanted it to look really round by having soft shading instead of the harder shading. Her hair was so much fun to shade. I don't shade super bright red hair very often, and red is kind of one of those colors I have a hard time shading. But in this case, I had a lot of fun shading her hair and adding all of the different highlights and stuff. I was really trying to keep the lighting situation in mind for this one because it has a very strong light source, so all of the lighting's coming from the left, which makes the shadows be on the right. I did add a slight bit of light coming from behind her. It's very subtle, but if you look on the right side of her head, you can see that gets slightly lighter, and this is just because of bounce light and also to kind of help her look more dimensional just a little bit. Shirayuki is one of my favorite female main characters just because she is such a strong female character. A lot of times in shoujo mangas, the characters are kind of ditzy or kind of all over the place or kind of hyper or super duper shy, which is fine. It's just I feel like Shirayuki is kind of unique in a way because she is like a really strong female character, and I don't know, she's like really cool. The sword was a lot of fun to shade. I had a lot of fun shading the sword, especially adding the little shiny bit on the tip of it, because it has like this little like twing kind of star like shiny thing. I really liked adding that. So here's the screenshot from Snow White with the red hair, and here's my version of it. I had a lot of fun getting to redraw this scene. I didn't get the angles quite right with Shirayuki's face in the background. I feel like the angle is a little bit more dramatic in the screenshot, whereas mine isn't quite as dramatic. But I had a lot of fun redrawing the screenshot, and I feel like I learned a few things from it. Good afternoon, sir. Can I interest you in becoming a member of Skillshare? No, wait, please. Don't close the door. I want to give you unlimited access to thousands of inspiring classes with hands-on projects and feedback from a community of millions. You can get unlimited access to these classes for 2 months for free. Skillshare is an online learning community. Skillshare has classes on tons of different topics like illustration, animation, graphic design, and more. Classes include a combination of video lessons and a class project. The classes easily fit to your schedule because they offer short lessons. Most classes are under 60 minutes. One class I recommend is Characters in Motion, Capturing Motion in Illustration by Patrick Brown. I always want to learn more about making my poses more expressive. Skillshare is also affordable. An annual subscription is less than $10 a month. The first 500 people to use the link in the description get 2 months of Skillshare for free. You get unlimited access to all of the classes for 2 whole months. So become a member of Skillshare today, and thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. So the next screenshot I'm redrawing is from Your Lie in April. I chose this screenshot of Arima in like this park area. So yeah, let's redraw this scene. So I'm starting off by drawing Arima, and he is in front view. Drawing him wasn't very tricky because he is just in front view, and front view is kind of one of my comfort zones. And it's usually not too tricky for me to draw, but I am happy with how Arima looks. It was kind of fun getting to draw him in my style. So basically, Your Lie in April is about Arima, and Arima plays the piano. but he can no longer hear his piano playing. He can hear other people playing the piano, and he can hear music, and his hearing is just fine. But whenever he goes to play the piano, he can't hear it anymore. It's kind of like a mental block because of stuff that happened in the past. And it's basically about his journey of playing the piano, and he also meets a girl, and I can't remember her name at the moment, which I feel really bad about because I really like her as a character. And he meets her, and she kind of inspires him to try to play the piano again. The genre of Your Lie in April is kind of drama, and I would say maybe it's a little bit of romance, but it's mostly kind of a drama anime. So yeah, it's really sad. I haven't watched it again since the first time I watched it because I don't think I can watch it again without crying a whole bunch. But yeah, it's really good. And now I'm doing my cleanup sketch of Arima. So yeah, just going over my rough sketch and getting all of the details in place. When I'm doing my cleanup sketch, I'm mostly just trying to decide which lines I want to keep and also kind of adjusting things a little bit here and there. His glasses were a little bit tricky. I don't draw actual glasses very often. Most time when I give characters glasses, they're the, kind of the typical anime glasses where they don't have much detail. But he actually has like glasses. So those were kind of fun to draw. So after finishing my cleanup sketch of Arima, I start filling in the base colors of the background and trying to get all of the details in place. I kind of made everything a bit too big. Like in the screenshot, everything is like slightly smaller, like the bushes and the fence and the trees. I didn't get the proportions quite right. Also, you might notice I have a little window to the right with my reference in it. I just recently found out about the subview window. It's so cool because you can import references into the subview window and your reference will always be there. I used to always have to have them on a separate screen or on my phone, so it's so handy having it right there. But I might actually censor out that window for most of this video because I don't want all of you seeing the reference the whole time, because I feel like it kind of takes away from the dramatic reveal after I draw everything. Oh, right now I'm working on that stone structure in the background, and oh my word, that part was so hard because for some reason it's turned at like a slight angle, and I was trying my best to mimic the angle and not make it too big or too small. But yeah, it was really tricky. I used a perspective ruler to kind of help me get all of the lines to line up, and I tried my best. That was one of the most tricky parts of the background. For a lot of the leaves in this picture, I am using leafy texture brushes that I find online. They just kind of make random leafy-like shapes. That's what I use to make all of the leafy shapes. I wouldn't have the patience to draw each leafy shape myself, so these brushes are very, very handy and I really like them. One thing I thought was really interesting is the screenshot's use of different greens to separate all of the greenery. I felt like I learned a lot while doing this background about drawing naturey backgrounds. Right now I'm trying to shade the bark on that one tree right there. It was kind of tricky. I just kept adding splotches of color and then I would blend them out using the running color on fiber blending tool. It has a slight texture to it, so it's not like super duper smooth, but it's a very subtle texture. I feel like I didn't get quite as detailed as the anime background. It didn't help that I was only looking at it in the small screen. I didn't keep going to a bigger screenshot, so there was a lot of tiny details I didn't quite pick up on, so I should have been better about looking at a bigger screenshot as well as the smaller screenshot. But yeah, it also kind of made me interpret the background in my own way though, so I guess it was kind of good. So yeah, now I'm doing the line art. We'll probably skip most of this because nothing really exciting happens here. So let's go on to after I fill in the base colors. So yeah, now I filled in the base colors, and after filling in the base colors and doing the line art, I decided to go back to the background. I really wanted to get the background more figured out before finishing up Arima because I was more nervous about the background than I was about the character because there is a lot going on in the background. So For the background, I'm just going in and trying to add more of the details, like the details for the fence and some slight grass texture to the grassy area. I wasn't quite sure if it's grass or not. I don't know, like it's like a yellowy color. So I wasn't totally sure what it was. Was it like a dirt with a mixture of grass? I don't know. It was really confusing. I had a lot of fun adding the shading to the bushes. I would add some darker colors with the leafy texture brushes, and then I would add some lighter colors with the leafy texture brush, and it would help them pop out a little bit more. For the trees, I basically just kept repeating the same process of putting down splotches of color and then blending them out and just trying to make the trees look like trees. And also to help everything feel a little bit more cohesive, I kind of put gradients over everything. So on the left, I added a lighter color gradient, and on the right, I added a more purpley gradient for some shadow. I also blurred out the background a little bit because the background in the screenshot is really soft. So I added a little bit of blur to the background to kind of soften everything. And lastly, I am shading in Arima. Kind of like with Shirayuki's screenshot, I did kind of a mixture of soft shading and cell shading. I still kind of wanted to capture that slightly anime cell shaded kind of look, but also add a little bit of my own soft shading to make things feel kind of fancy. Oh, also, you might think he looks a little bit more sad in my drawing versus the screenshot. That's because, like, it's kind of hard to tell in the screenshot, but he goes from a kind of surprised face to kind of a slightly disappointed face. But it's kind of hard to tell in the screenshot because you don't see the transition from the kind of surprised face to the kind of disappointed face. So I made him look even a little bit more sad in my drawing just to kind of help convey the feeling he was giving off in that scene. Overall, I had a lot of fun shading Arima, and it was kind of nice just doing a more simple lighting situation, nothing super fancy. His eyes were a lot of fun to shade. He has kind of a darker blue color eyes, and so those were kind of cool. One thing that was also fun was his clothing. I always feel like I learn more about clothing when I do these anime redrawing screenshots, just because I get to see how the animators draw the clothing. Drawing from life is good, but I also do feel like it's good to draw from other illustrations and other illustrators and to study them as well, because then you can learn how they stylize things. Oh, I also really liked adding the little shiny bits to his glasses. So here's the screenshot from Your Lie in April, and here's my version of it. Like I mentioned, I didn't get the background perfect, but I tried my best, and I feel like I learned a lot from redrawing the background, and I had a lot of fun getting to draw Arima. And here's a look at the other picture I drew of Shirayuki. So I hope you enjoyed watching me redraw scenes from my favorite animes. I had a lot of fun working on these pictures. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next week in my next video. Bye!